first of all, Minister, I welcome much of what was in your statement, and as my colleague Donnacha Lira has said, we recognise that there has been efforts made to resolve many of the issues that have, I suppose, been there for so long, for so many families that have had children with various levels of disability. And the issues with special needs assistance in the schools is probably the one that comes to most of us most often. And it's only in the last couple of weeks, in fact, I had a young man from Drumshanbo that contacted me in relation to his son who's starting school soon, and he was saying that the school has got 1.83 SNAs for St Patrick's National School as a mainstream school. And now what he has to do when his son starts, and his son has muscular dystrophy and will need a lot of attention, and that set, those 2 SNAs that are there, are already working with 3 other children in the school. And now he has to go and apply for a special exemption review in order to look for the additional SNA. And I think, and the point he makes is that the system is clearly broken when that's the case, and that we need to have a much better way of assuring children and assuring parents that, particularly when they're on the outset of sending a child to school, that the service will be in place for them, and that they shouldn't be doing it in that manner. So I think that's one of the things that needs to be looked at as to how the system can be brought up to date, that it deals with people efficiently and effectively from the very start. The other issues, and much of them you've gone through in regard to the provision of special classes, and I also have had several principals on to me from various schools, and in fact in a local school beside me, Carrigallen National School in County Leitrim, have an application in for to build and to extend, to have another special class. They've already have one, there's a second one in place, and they're looking to I suppose expand the criteria that's there at present, because some of it is very tight and very difficult for them. And there needs to be, I think, an openness to deal with each school on an individual basis, particularly if a school is prepared and is looking into the future. And in fairness, that particular school, and many of them are looking to the future, and they see that what they're doing now in 7, 8 years' time will not be enough, that they'll need to be going again. And rather than coming back with another application for another new extension or another new build in 7 or 8 years' time, if when it's been done the first time, if it could be done with that bit of space, that little bit extra in place, it would be actually save the state a lot of money and the additional resources that has been put in place for to do that. The other issue, I think, that comes straight to mind is the qualifications, and Deputy Lira mentioned it. Many people out there set out to become SNAs and discover that it's difficult and onerous, and I think we need to re-examine that, and that needs to happen as an emergency, and it's not something that will take a long time to do. It can happen quickly if the effort is put in to make it happen quickly. Another issue that come up recently, and it was actually a woman also as it happens in Drumshanbo. Her name is Anne Bohan, and she runs her own private clinic, Assist Dyslexia, and she works with children with dyslexia. And she says here, she sent me a message, in fact only in the last couple of days: why are individual readers in exams been replaced by a helper for several students who will read occasional words or sentences? There seems to be a complete dismantling of support for dyslexia kids at primary and secondary level. I have a copy of the letter of one of the children received saying that that's what is now been granted. So in other words, you would have a child with dyslexia, and in the past they would have had a reader who would assist them with their exams. Now that reader could be assisting several children. And it just isn't working and can't work. And there needs to be a recognition that, and the experience of families, and that particular woman is clearly setting that out, that the experience of families is what they understand now is what's happened is it's a withdrawal of support. But yet when you contact the department, they say, oh no, supports are there as normal. We have support for children with dyslexia when they're carrying out their exams. But clearly, the dilution, where they've dissolved it out among several children needing the same, what was for one child has now been that same reader has to work with several children. That simply isn't appropriate, and I think you'd acknowledge that, Minister, that needs to be looked at and examined. The overall picture that we've got in regard to all of this is that for very, very many families out there, when they have a child with a disability of whatever kind, from autism right across the various issues that come to mind, their experience is that they have to fight every inch of the way. And I think you'd acknowledge that has been what most of them will tell us, and we need to change that. Fundamentally, we need to have a society where people, if they have, that accident of whatever, that a child has going to have difficulties in life in general, and that family feels that they have going to have, to really work hard to do their best for their child, that the state should be there to assist them, to help them, not to try and block them and hold them back. And I think there's too many people in positions in our various agencies that believe that their job is blocking anybody from getting anything, rather than actually assisting them to get anything. And that needs to change as well, and that's an attitudinal change. But I think the leadership in that, in fairness from yourself, the leadership in that has to come from the top, and you have a role in that, and in fairness, I think you're taking that role seriously. But we haven't seen it play out at the bottom yet. There are many, many experiences that parents will relate to us of situations where they've come up against it, that the system just says no, and that's not good enough. And I think that needs to be examined and changed. So the issues are wide and varied. They're also, of course, about pre-planning and make sure we have planning in place to have enough services in place as we look forward into the future. But there is good work being done, and I want to pay tribute to a lot of the people who work in the services, who do great work and who are really committed to helping children and to liaising with families and working with them. But we still have a long distance to go.